You use an equation. It's a mathematical equation.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. You don't do that. Wouldn't that be so funny? It's like you have to. Never mind. I sometimes I say.
It could be. I
mean,
guess.
I don't know.
All right, Dave, we're drinking Baker's 7 today.
Excellent. Oh.
This is, to be honest, I've never had Baker's 7 before, so
New bottle.
New bottle and totally new bourbon for me. So trying it for the first time.
But you've had the family of bourbons that it belongs to.
Yes, yeah, the Basil Haydens, the Knob Creeks, Booker's,
Yeah.
but I have not tried the Baker's 7 yet. So
Okay,
this
wait.
is maiden voyage.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Any first impressions?
It's warm for sure. For being, what is it, only 107 proof? It's warm.
Yes,
And it's toasty.
it is.
It's very toasty.
I mean, 107 is no slouch. I don't
No.
think that's.
It's not Booker's.
It's not Booker's. It's not Elijah Craig barrel proof, which we had a while back.
No, it's
but
not
but
that.
it does drink very hot.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, so I think the thing that I'm most excited about this episode and to share is just some of the history of Baker's 7, and so like just some of the ways that it's kind of evolved over time, and to put them in the position to do a rebrand.
Yeah, well, and I mean, we picked this one specifically because they did a rebrand. I mean, basically a full rebrand
2019.
in 2019.
Yeah.
So, all the bottles
And repositioned, really,
the
completely,
website.
yeah.
I mean, everything was. I mean, I don't know if they just decided to blow it up and start from scratch, but it almost
Right.
feels that way. But I don't know, everything, the aesthetic, everything about it. I like this. I think it's really nice. I guess to the point, right? It's like, how do they know? Like, what brought them to 2019 and them saying we got to do something with our brand here? You know, why didn't they just kind of keep it going as it was?
Is that
Well, I guess I don't know. It was rhetorical, but also a question. I guess I don't know. I mean, we picked this because they did a rebrand, and they have Jim Beam. Goes back hundreds of years, so it's a historic brand in general.
right?
So this being just like one line out of the many that they have. I don't know. I wasn't on the inner circle of their conversation of the rebrand. But
Well, it wasn't just the identity design. There was a lot of strategy and kind of repositioning this, even kind of reinterpretation of the value proposition of what Baker 7 was, because it was originally mixed, right? It was not a single barrel origin, correct?
yeah, it was a small batch.
Right.
So, the small batch I think gives a much more consistent, because basically they're taking 200-300 barrels or whatever it is,
Right.
mixing them all together, and then you have one consistent batch. Where this is now a single barrel, so you're going to get, which I don't know, some people might like, some people might not like, because you're not going to get another Baker 7. I mean, the chances of getting two bottles out
That
of
are
one
just this
barrel
way.
are not great, right? So I don't know, if you like that consistency, then the single barrel may not entice you. But then on the other hand, nobody has a bottle like this, right? This is unique
Right.
to us, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool.
So that's from a strategic standpoint only, that's a really smart move because they were capitalizing on something, getting people excited. So you had an audience, and to be honest, I don't really know what their target market looked like before, or what people were looking at, or even if it was performing well or any of those things. But by them making the decision to say, because we're going to go to single barrel, and because we're wanting to attract a different type of customer, and I think what the customer is, I think it's the person who wants to dabble into these sophisticated single barrel whiskeys. They want something that's high proof, that's going to be warm, but they're like they don't want the 110. They don't want to burn their tongue. Yeah. So I think it's a really nice access point. But from a strategic standpoint, I think it was a perfect time. They capitalized on that change. And that's actually, you and I have been talking for a while about this idea of when is the right time for a rebrand. And I think actually, even before we answer that, sometimes the bigger question is a new visual identity always needed?
Right.
And I think a lot of times you get agencies who are more interested in lining their pocketbooks and making money than they are interested in providing value to the client and stepping back and saying, is a rebrand really in your best interest? Or are we actually causing you more undue harm, like more risk? And at the end of the day, maybe we make money, maybe our agency's doing it, maybe we made something really pretty, but then maybe the consumer's confused by it. Maybe they're like, hey, where's the product that I always loved and wanted? Where did it go? Whereas like a lot of times the best places for rebrands are like, your value proposition is unrecognizable. You've got like maybe a change of hierarchy in the office, or the brand is going to be kind of changing hands. Maybe the brand is out of date sometimes, but I don't think that it was an out of date situation for these guys. I think it's a good time.
Honestly, like I don't know that I kind of wonder if Baker 7 specifically really kind of dropped off the radar a little bit. Like I don't know if it was on people's radar, and so you can almost revive a whole thing by just not totally blowing it up and doing something brand new, but something new enough that, like the website is amazing.
If you guys want to see something really cool, go to Baker's Bourbon website. You can even, I thought what was the coolest was that you could type in the
you could type in the serial number, and it tells you cool. like where your barrel was located, all those things. And as you kind of push through the website, it's very interactive. You can tell that they spent a lot of time on it, and so not just a new bottle and a new kind of design, but
and that's strategy leading design too, because what they're doing, even more so than just the visual identity, even more so than just the labels and the guidelines, all those things, they're inviting the customer on the website in that same kind of metaphoric journey. It's like we're changing hands, we're doing something new, we want you to come along with us, we want you to experience it's so cool because you could look where your single barrel came from, and it happens to be a single barrel now. That's really smart.
Yeah. Well, and I think it sets them apart too. It's unique. I guess I don't go on a lot of websites for different whiskeys, but I have not seen that where it's that specific. I think they were telling you like the weather during the time. It gets very specific on your barrel, the location in their warehouse, like the whole thing.
And there's a transparency element to there too. Like they did a study years ago. Got the agency that did it. I was reading about it. It was like that brands that create a sense of transparency for their consumer. I want to say it performed like 37% higher or something like that than, and transparency being the key word. Like people want they want to know. They want to know what's going on with their stuff.
So if you're not Baker 7,
right,
and you're a dentist office. That's what just came to
I want to
mind.
know what kind of drill you're going to use on my teeth.
Like when would they? How would you know? When is your 2019, if you will? Like when do you get to your? If you're just a, I don't want to say run of the mill business, but you're not a distillery. You're not. How do you? When do you pull the plug? I mean, when do you pull the plug on what you had and start something new? I mean, how do you detect that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's always the obvious ones, right? Like, your brand is boring, or it's not like standing out in the market, and like so many, like everybody's gonna say that. Oh, you need something more exciting. I think a really good one actually might be is your practice, is your service that you're offering, is the way you're presenting it niche? Like, is it unique, or are you presenting almost a commodification? Is it something that everybody else presents? And I get it. Like, a lot of medical practices look the same. There's only so many ways that you can go and have your dentist drill your tooth, right? And the value proposition really is in the provider, the dentist. But at the end of the day, though, too, if we think about it beyond that, like, what is the niche? The niche approach that specific dentist offers? Is it a certain type of care that they do? Do they are they known for a certain approach that they take with their patients, or certain types of technology, or maybe even like the rest of the team? Because the brand isn't just the visual identity; it's the entire experience of walking in that office. And so I think a really good time for a lot of businesses to approach a rebrand, a good indicator could be are you competing in a commodity-driven space, which I think is kind of almost like embarrassing, right? Like, we're competing and everybody's just like us. We don't really stand out in any way. And so either you're going to see people competing and lowering their prices way down and kind of succumbing to well, we got to drop our prices, because if we're just like the other guy who, drills the teeth, what's the difference? Our insurance takes it. That's not a very good,
Right.
That's not a very good separator if you're being driven by, insurance or, price cuts. So I think providing the service that you do, the quality that you do is being part of the brand, the people, the team, the experience, the mission. And then that lining up with your visual identity. I think if you're not aligned in that way, and you're not playing into that niche that you offer to your customers, or your patients in that case, I think you're missing out.
So how does a business owner stay mindful of their brand, and that it may need an evolution?
You use an equation. It's a mathematical equation.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. You don't do that. Wouldn't that be so funny? It's like never mind. I sometimes say.
It could be. I guess.
Mean, I don't know. This is this opens up a whole other can of worms in a conversation.
Well, I guess like for bakers, you have people who are paying attention. They're like, hey,
right.
They're sitting around a big round table. It's a big business, a lot of people involved, and they're saying, hey, you know what? We need to revamp Baker 7. And
well, hopefully they had a good strategist helping them.
Well, I'm sure they did, but you have all these kind of, let's say, smaller businesses that don't have that resource necessarily, at least not in-house. And I think a lot of people don't even realize that their brand is out of date, or that their brand is bland. Their brand is bland. I'm gonna that's my catchphrase. I feel for that small business. I feel for them because they don't have somebody looking out for their brand, and you can get 10 years in and not really be growing and wonder why, and all along it's that your brand just blends in with everybody else's.
So it's all along you didn't really you weren't aware of those kind of key indicators of the time for it to be the right time to kind of consider, hey, maybe I need to reapproach our brand. Maybe we need to look at our position. Maybe we need to think holistically about our strategy. Maybe our visual identity is not correct. And again, I think that it's not just when is the right time, but is it the right thing to do to reapproach that? Because you might have a really good visual identity, but you might not be activating it in the right way. It might be a phenomenal logo. I'm reducing
Sure.
it down to reducing it down to something. I know I always say brands aren't logos, but you might have a phenomenal logo, but if you aren't putting it in the right channels, it won't really matter. And so the part of the brand strategist, right, part of working with that person is having the wherewithal to be able to kind of cross that gap between what is a brand and how to appropriately market it, right? Again, there is a difference, and we talked about the difference between branding and marketing. Again, we're not going to get off in the weeds there, but having that strategic approach of, well, this is where you might put this logo system, right? This is how you might use the font. This is how you might activate the brand on the web. And what better way than to take the customer who's going to purchase this awesome bourbon on a journey than by showing them where their barrel came from. That's excellent brand activation. That's really smart.
Yeah.
And so I think it's all of those things. I don't know if that kind of...
No, I think so. Could there be a way for... Okay, sticking with Dennis, sorry. Could there be a
no
way...
more Dennis. No more Dennis.
All right, I don't know. I don't know.
Delicious bourbon.
How would they engage their clients to find out if it's time for a rebrand? Like, what kind of questions would...
Well, for them, it's really interesting. Again, they were noticing probably kind of a plateau from the process before with the multiple barrel approach to things. Small batch. Yeah. I was looking for the word. It was there.
I got your back.
It was there. No, thank you. So they were looking for kind of a success in that, and what I suspect is it wasn't performing well on the shelf, and it probably wasn't. The label, the presentation wasn't probably unique enough to really get attention, or put them in that place to compete against their big brothers within the same brand, right? You're going head to head, and if people are already understanding who Booker's is, or Basil Hayden, or
Knob Creek.
That's right. Yes.
Well, we're gonna get beat up in the comments on this one because I don't know all of the different ones.
It's Jim Beam too, right? Jim Beam.
Well, Jim Beam, yeah. Jim Beam's the head.
Yes, yeah.
But
so
larceny? No, I don't know. So I guess they're getting just feedback from their sales.
They're probably getting feedback from the data of their sales, and they're probably looking at it and they're saying, okay, the target market who's buying this, they may see us out there, but they still may be confused, and we kind of are, just getting looked over. It's like that kid who was raising his hand in class again and again and again, and he's kind of behind the other kids who are much taller, much more pronounced, can talk a lot louder, and and you were...
Well, now it's like, it's almost, I don't know if this is allocated or not everywhere, but it's really hard to get in Oregon.
The 7.
Yeah, the Baker 7. So they created a, I don't know, not a commodity necessarily, but they created something that's, it's very difficult to get here.
Yeah.
It's not particularly expensive, but you just can't find it. So even in that, like limiting their release created...
Really smart. Scarcity and urgency, man. I think all of the scarcity of liquor in the state of Oregon, I think it's a marketing ploy in some way. It's got to be.
It probably is.
It's got to be.
But there's a handful. Like the Weller 107 or Special Reserve, like they're hard to get everywhere. So some of these businesses are figuring it out because...
Yeah.
And they're not always... we're going to get into our scores. I'm not going to say I don't like it, but I'm not like wowed
by the 7.
So we might differ on that. I don't know, but so I don't know. I guess we could just get into that.
To answer your question, three things that somebody might say in approaching for a rebrand might be considering. Are there any negative connotations of your brand? Is it going to be a PR nightmare? I'm not about sweeping things under the rug necessarily, but I'm also about sometimes maybe it's time to consider how we could, show a different side of ourselves.
Yeah.
A sharper side.
Yeah.
Are you niche enough in your presentation where you're standing apart? And I think that's especially like CPG brands for sure. You have such limited time on a shelf when somebody's walking by, and it's true. Guys, I know we enjoy we love our bourbon. We love, a nice glass of bourbon. We love our whiskeys. I love wine too, but there are times where I am drawn into labels. I'm not gonna I see it. I'm visually
absolutely.
attracted by it, and it's like, they spent some time thinking about the presentation. So what I assume is the contents of the bottle are equal to the caliper of the experience that I'm going to have. And how disappointing is it when the contents in the bottle suck and the label is really good?
I'm not going to go so far as to say this sucks, but
yeah. Okay, so and one, you could say your brand is out of date. That's a really good one. Or your value proposition, what you're offering is going to change. You know what I mean? I'm trying to think of.
Oh yeah, you're switching directions.
You're switching directions. That's a big jump. There are companies that do that though, right? They can switch directions over time.
Yeah. Well, and I think like a branding firm or a branding agency, if a business owner, wanted to find out, they could probably, somebody's willing to tell them, tell them honestly what they think.
It's not a new story; it's a new chapter.
Yeah,
that's what I would say. That's what I would say.
Yeah,
that's what I would say to people. Like, if the chapter is drawing to a close on your brand and you're getting to a place where there's not a whole lot more you can tell and still give people value, and when I was a kid, my mom would get mad at me because I would. The statement, right? Discard everything that means nothing, right? My professor in college would always say, if it doesn't earn its place on the canvas, get rid of it, right? It should be gone. When I was a kid, I used to write these big long essays, and my mom would always say, David, that's fluff. That's garbage. All that stuff that you just said is garbage. Tell me the essence of it. So if you're getting to a place with your brand and it's no longer providing value to your customers, it's no longer helping them to move along through the paragraphs and the sentences, maybe it's time for a new chapter so that you can kind of take them to the next place in that journey. That's what I would say. That's the best time for a rebrand.
Yeah.
And it should be quantifiable too. It should be a good return on that investment.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right, fair enough. Well, I do like the rebrand that Baker 7 did. I think this presentation is great. I thought their website was great. I might be a little harsher on my score. It let you down. So here's my thought. I think it drank hotter than 107 should drink. It was not. It didn't feel smooth to drink. It felt harsh on the palate.
That I agree. That even when I took that first sip, I was like, "Whoa, that is."
And it didn't get smoother as I went on. We were drinking the Elijah Craig, and the first sip was pretty strong. I mean, it was really strong.
Yeah.
But over the course of 20, 30 minutes just drinking it really smoothed out and it became more drinkable as the night went on.
Totally.
This has not done that in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think the flavor is pretty good, but it doesn't feel very dynamic. It doesn't, I don't know if that's right, but it feels very it just punches you. And that's kind of all, that's it. I don't know, I don't know, the flat's probably not the right word. So I'm going to jump to my tasty score.
Yeah.
I am going to give it a 2. I'm going to give it a 2. I would probably put this in a mixed drink. I don't think I would drink this neat. This was not particularly enjoyable neat for me.
No.
So I would do a mixed drink, and it would not be a daily drinker. So
So it's interesting. I agree with everything you said. There's some great, like, it almost like toasty, like toffee-ish, things going on there. But it's like so hot consistently that the smooth is completely gone for me. And so personally, I like a smoother whiskey.
And you might be able to, add a little bit of water or something to it, like just a couple of drops, or maybe put an ice cube in it or something.
Yeah, no, for sure, and kind of get that break out of the flavor profile. I think this would make a great old fashioned.
Yeah,
it'd be a fine old fashioned. So I could see that. I would definitely. It's to be honest with you, I don't know if I'm going to have it again anytime soon. Just on its own, just neat.
Yeah.
It probably wouldn't be for me in that way. I almost would go so far, like, it's so funny, like the 1s and the 5s on our tasty score, it's like, those are precious zones.
Right.
Like, you don't want to go, it's not a 1, but it's definitely not a 5. Because we've had some 1s recently, right?
Yes.
So I think, not to copy you, I'm going to say a 2 as well. I think a 2 is a very fair score for this. And I would say I would probably put this in an old fashioned, and but then that's hard. Here's the challenge with that, because I think Booker's is delicious neat, but Booker's also, I think, can make a really good old fashioned, because it's really strong and it doesn't mix down, and it has lots of good flavor. So it's like, how does this compete in that way with Big Brother? The brand has to really carry a lot of weight here for it.
Yeah.
It really does.
And, this may be exactly what somebody's looking for as well.
Yeah.
I think, for us, I guess it's a 2. But for others, I've watched some other reviews and some people really enjoy it. So
yeah, I'd love to hear some comments. Hear what you guys think.
Yeah. On the whiskey and the rebrand. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are. All right, Absolutely. Thanks, guys. We will see you in the next video.